Alright, so we are back for another Dokkan battle video, and in today's video we're going to be going over every unit that should be getting their Extreme Z Awakening during the up-and-coming Dragon Ball Heroes collaboration campaign. Now I know the timing on this is a little weird. We're in the middle of the thank you celebration and I'm making a video on Dragon Ball Heroes, but there's not a whole lot to make videos on right now. Not saying Dokkan's dry, but like for a YouTuber it does feel kind of dry. It's too late to make videos on Super Saiyan 4 Goku, but it's a little too early to make videos on, like the physical Beerus' EZA, so I figured just making a video on all the units that are going to get their EZA for Dragon Ball Heroes would be good, because then it gives you guys the opportunity to maybe awaken them if you got them in your box, train them, give them super attack levels or something like that, just to get them ready for when, obviously, they get their EZA. But one big thing about all of these units we're going to be talking about is that they have to be good not only on the Dragon Ball Heroes and crossover category. Obviously, a big issue with Dragon Ball Heroes units is they're heavily restricted to the crossover category or the Dragon Ball Heroes category, which completely limits their use. Because take, the Super Saiyan 4 Vegito as an example. He's on stuff like Potara, he's on stuff like Time Travelers, he's on Battle of Witch, Giant Ape Power, Defenders of Justice, Time Limit, Fuse Fighters. Like, let's look at Defenders of Justice really quick. Are you going to look at this category and tell me it's good? No, you're not, because this category absolutely sucks ass. Like, you got the Gammas on here, and then MVP 17, and then I guess Tech Ultimate Gohan because he never ages, and then that's about it. Other than them, this category sucks. So getting a unit like Super Saiyan 4 Vegito, who would be really good for the category if he's not restricted to the Dragon Ball Heroes team and all that, would be very useful, and he'd just be a very good addition to everyone's box. So for all of these units, I'm just going to assume they're not heavily restricted to those two categories, because if they do end up being restricted to those categories, it kind of just limits their use completely. I mean, maybe if they want to make the Heroes team just amazing, all these units are restricted to the Heroes category, but we end up getting like a new Heroes LR, they're all amazing when you get these Heroes restrictions off. I guess that could be good, because then the Heroes team is going to be really crazy, but for that to happen, then, you need a really good Heroes lead, and that could just get kind of complicated, especially because a lot of these Heroes units, the fun thing about them, or I guess just the good thing about all of them, is that they're so obscure. Like, we've got a Super Saiyan 4 Vegito, a Super Saiyan 4 Broly, we've got Demon Goddess Toa, we've got, Super Mira, we've got Black Mast Saiyan. Like, there's a lot of really random units for Dragon Ball Heroes, so they're on a lot of really random teams. So then, Corroded Body and Mind, we'll take this guy as an example, is horrible, but this guy could be a really good addition to that team as long as he's not heavily restricted to the Dragon Ball Heroes or crossover category. So I think Heroes is a very good opportunity to buff a lot of these really weak teams, and I feel like they should capitalize on that with this up-and-coming Heroes collaboration campaign. But knowing Dokkan, I don't know, they're weird sometimes. They're going to make all these units heavily restricted to the Dragon Ball Heroes team and then not buff the category until, the next year's celebration. So, with all that said, we can go ahead and start talking about the units. Sorry, I kind of rambled on for a little there. We got Super Saiyan 4 Vegito right here. He has very good potential. His leader skill probably go to 180%. Maybe give him like 30% attack and defense on Super, or maybe just like 50% defense. That definitely would be pretty good. And then his passive, I guess just bump this up to 200%, because 200% the stats alongside his crazy stat buffs with his EZA, because of course his stats are going to increase, should be enough to just make him good with that. But then also him having the high chance to nullify the supers, him having the support, maybe giving him guard for the first couple turns, I think could be pretty good. What else could they do? I mean, I guess they could give him like a build-up. You want to give him like 20% attack and defense, start of turn up to, I don't know, 100% or something. So then he has the guard for the first couple turns, but then once you get his stats fully built up, then he's not relying on the guard to be good. You could actually use him maybe in slot 2 and 3 without the guard, and he's still useful. Which actually would make a lot of sense, because then you could run like the Super Saiyan 4 Goku in slot 1, the one that we just got on Global, this guy right here. Or you could run maybe some of the Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4s in slot 1 if they're more of a slot 1 option. And it would just make a lot of sense, because this guy's also supporting them, because crossover category allies are getting 1 key, 20% the stats, and then Giant Ape Power is getting the same thing. So maybe if they want to bump this up to like 2 key and 30% the stats to like both of the categories, so then in total he's supporting for like 4 key and then 60% attack and defense. Yeah, this guy could be a busted support. So a lot of potential with Vegito. Again, just bump up what he already has, and then maybe give him a little build up, maybe a little guard, and then he could be crazy. And then next up, we got Super Saiyan 4 Broly. So unlike Super Saiyan 4 Vegito, I don't think this guy was ever really that crazy. I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't good on release. He was definitely pretty alright, but I feel like he aged a lot worse than the Vegito. Like, now this guy can still be pretty useful because of his support. He's got the high chance to nullify. He gets defense on Super. And then this guy just has none of that. I mean, he gets some stats on super from his passive, but his start of turn attack and defense stat, or really just his defensive stat, sucks. So definitely give him a start of turn attack and defense stat. Give him some defense on super. I guess bump this up to maybe like 160%. And then, I mean, I hate to sound basic, but guard, damage reduction, dodge. It's as simple as that, really, because he's already going to have a lot of stats in his kit. If they give him a start of turn attack and defense stat, give him defense on super, and bump this up a little. So then just giving him maybe like 30% damage reduction when there's another Giant Ape Power category ally in the same turn, then I think he's great. Because most of the time you're running him next to a Giant Ape Power category ally. I mean, actually, you know what you could do? You could just make this guy a godly slot 2 option, and then you know who you could run in slot 1? Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Broly. And then, bam, got a great rotation with that. So, I don't know, something like that I feel like could be good. Just make this guy really good, maybe next to a Giant Ape Power category ally, which isn't that big of a deal because his link set is for Giant Ape Power category units. You know, Saiyan Roar, Saiyan Warrior Raise, Super Saiyan, Prepared for Battle, Fierce Battle. A lot of these links we see on other Super Saiyan 4 units. So, I don't think it's that big of a deal restricting him to having one Giant Ape Power category ally in the same turn, because they're already doing it in his kit as well, just to get the additional. And then with all the additionals this guy has, it can make his defensive stat get pretty high, because like I said, defense on super is something this guy needs. But yeah, Super Saiyan 4 Broly definitely has a lot of potential. They do need to give him a lot, unlike Vegito, because Vegito already has a good skeleton for an EZA. But this guy does need, you know, some guard, damage reduction, something like that, like defense on super, because as it stands, he's not really looking that great, right? And then next up, we do have the Demon Goddess Toa. So I'm going to be honest, there's not really a whole lot to talk about with her. Just make her better defensively, and then make her a better support. I don't care whatsoever about her damage. I think right now she's still pretty useful just because of her support. I mean, all allies, 3 key and 30% attack and defense. Of course, that's very good for pretty much every extreme class team. And then she's still supporting even more. You know, she's got the chance to get another 10% defense for all allies. And then extreme class allies get 50% attack and defense. And then she gets the 50% HP when HP is 50% or less. So there's a lot you could do. Just make these conditions a little bit easier to get, and then bump her stats and her support, and then she's good. I mean, maybe give her 30% defense for 1 turn as well, because most of the time you're probably running her in slot 3 just as a floater, so then her obviously supporting everyone, and then recovering HP when HP gets low. Could be very good. So yeah, again, just bump up her defense, bump up her support, and then maybe give her defense on super. Because between all these categories, she is helping a lot of really bad extreme class teams. You know, Terrifying Conquerors, Time Travelers, Dragon Ball Seekers, Siblings Bond. All those categories have a lot of good extreme class units. So then her supporting them definitely is very useful. And then next up, we do have the Demon God Deborah. I mean, a lot of you guys aren't going to like this guy's design, but you could tell it's what they were going for. Just a super battle road unit. Right? I mean, he has a lot of restrictions when facing however many enemies. He also lowers attack and defense, so it's very obvious they were going for like a super battle road design. I mean, it's very basic, but I would say just give him 30% attack and defense start of turn, bump this up to 150%, bump this up to 150% as well, maybe make this minus 30% for 3 turns, and then make this 150% defense, and then a 70% chance to dodge when facing 2 or more enemies, and then that's pretty much it. I mean, you don't got to do a whole lot with this guy. A 70% chance to dodge in most Super Battle Road stages is going to be very good. And then if they bump up his stats a little, if they give him 30% defense on Super, then his stats definitely could be very good. And then with a 70% chance to dodge, this guy could be very useful. So some good value with him, but keep in mind, it'll probably be like a Super Battle Road unit. So of course you can't run this guy in most Red Zone content and expect him to be good. And then next up, we do have the Dark Mast King. I'm going to be completely honest, I do not expect this guy to be that great. He could be very good on the Dragon Ball Heroes team, but on other teams, like we mentioned earlier, which is what we want, I don't really think he's going to be that useful, because you can see what they already kind of did in his kit. They gave him Guaranteed Guard, which is very good, when there's another Dragon Ball Heroes category ally attacking in the same turn. So if you've got a good Dragon Ball Heroes setup with this guy, he definitely can look pretty impressive, because of course, Guaranteed Guard alongside his increased stats, because this is probably going to go up to like maybe 150, 160%-ish attack and defense. This will probably go to around 150% as well. Then those two combined with maybe defense on super and Guaranteed Guard could be a really good option for slot 1, but just something you got to keep in mind. You have to have a Dragon Ball Heroes category ally in the same turn, because without the guard, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be, you know, that great for slot 1. I mean, we'll see. Maybe they give him like a 50% chance to dodge alongside guard, and if he's got these increased stats and a 50% chance to dodge, of course, in slot 1 he'll still be somewhat useful, but I'm not too sure how good he's going to be without that guard. And to get the guard, obviously, you need a Dragon Ball Heroes category ally. So it could be a little difficult with this guy. I think he is going to be heavily restricted to the Dragon Ball Heroes team, so it's just something you're going to want to keep in mind. But that's not to say this guy won't have any use. He's recovering 10% of damage dealt as HP, so he's going to be healing. And then if you do just have one Dragon Ball Heroes category ally in the same turn, then he gets that guard. He's getting defense for multiple turns after you receive an attack, which does kind of solidify him in slot 1. So if you've got the right setup for him, this guy could still be very good. But unfortunately, stuff like Corroded Body Mind, Stored Figures, Vegeta Family isn't really getting that much help from this because obviously you need Dragon Ball Heroes units for this guy to be good, and you're probably not running those units on these teams. So then next up, we do have the Super Mira. Now, very similar to the Debora, he's probably going to be designed as a Super Battle Road unit. You can see they did give him like debuffs. They also gave him stats depending on if the enemy's in an attack down status. So obviously, he is designed more for Super Battle Road. That's not to say he's not going to be good. Just make his stats a little bit higher and then maybe make some of these restrictions easier to get. And that's about all I could say. Most of these Super Battle Road units are very predictable. They're just going to bump up what they already have. They might give them like guaranteed guard if there's like 3 or 4 enemies or something like that, but I don't really think we'll see that. I think what's going to happen is the debuff is going to go to like maybe 30-40%. His stats will go to like 150-160% start of turn. This will go to like 100% attack and defense, and then this might be like a great chance to crit when the enemy's in attack down or defense down status, and then that's probably it. I don't really see this guy being too good because, like I said, with the Debora, Dokkan typically likes to keep the same theme that they were going for. So obviously the theme is more of a Super Battle Road unit, so they're probably just going to make him an even better Super Battle Road unit with his EZA. But again, same thing with the Debora. That's not to say this guy's completely useless. It just solidifies the only place you're going to be able to use him, right? And then next up, we do have the Black Mast Saiyan. So this guy has a pretty good kit as it stands. I would say the only thing they need to do is just give him some technique. So like guard, damage reduction, dodge, and then bump up what he already has just by a little. Because 160% attack and defense is not bad. Of course, he gets more buffs depending on your key, which is not going to be an issue. He's a TUR, and he gets key, so obviously that's not that big of a deal. So I think as long as they just give him maybe 180% to stats start of turn, and then maybe make this like 100% attack and defense, and then a high chance to crit. And then if they really want to be nice, they can give him like guaranteed guard if you get a Rainbow Key Sphere or a couple Rainbow Key Spheres. And then if they really, really want to be nice, they can make him like a Rainbow Orb Changer or something. Now that they can restrict to having a Dragon Ball Heroes category ally or whatever, because most of the time, you're still going to be getting a Rainbow Key Sphere with this guy. I don't think that's that unrealistic. So then getting that to then get his guard is going to be fairly common. But I think that's really all they need to do. Like I said, just bump up what he already has, give him some guard, damage reduction, dodge, and then this guy's golden, right? And then next up, we do have the Demigra. I don't even know how to pronounce this, so I'm just going to call him Physical Demigra. He is a Super Battle Road unit yet again. You can see he's got this debuff right here. I mean, I'm not saying they got to design him as a Super Battle Road unit. I think there's some units that debuff the enemy that aren't necessarily designed for Super Battle Road. So if they want to give him 50% attack and defense for one turn, bump this up to like 160% to stats, make this Extreme Class Allies 3 key, and then 40% attack and defense. And then the debuff, I honestly don't care about. They'll probably make it like minus 30% attack and defense, but I could really care less. You're never really going to see that in most content anyway. And then he is restricted to the crossover team as well, so it's another thing with this guy you got to keep in mind. I would say make this like 30% attack and defense per crossover category ally on the team, and then also give him like orb changing and guaranteed guard, so then he's insane for the crossover team. But unfortunately, between some of the Super Battle Road utility and the restrictions for the crossover team, I don't necessarily see this guy being that good, which definitely does suck because he's on Stored Figures, he's on Time Travelers, Resurrected Warriors, Realm of Gods, which all could definitely use the help, but whatever, I guess it is what it is. It's not like they're going to remove these restrictions with his EZA. They definitely would keep it. If anything, they'd make it worse. So, yeah, I guess we just kind of have to accept the fact this guy's probably not going to be that great. But then next up, we do have the Lags. So this is the free-to-play unit, and this is actually the last unit we're going to be talking about. She definitely could be pretty good. Just give her 50% attack and defense for one turn, and then increase her stats. I know that's very basic. I've been pretty basic with all these units in this video, sorry. It's just, it's pretty predictable what they're going to do. Like, this is also a free-to-play unit, so they're not going to make her that good. She's probably just going to get a little bit extra, you know, attack and defense here, a little bit extra attack and defense here, and then I guess maybe a little bit extra here, and then make some of the restrictions a little easier to get. And then that's pretty much it with her. They're not going to make her that amazing because, of course, it's a free-to-play unit. So I don't necessarily see her being that great, but I guess we'll have to see. It's weird. Dokkan sometimes like to make free-to-play units amazing, and sometimes they like to make them horrible. So it's very difficult to predict if these free-to-play units are going to be good with their EZA or if they're going to be insanely mid, because like I said, it's usually hit or miss with these free-to-play units. But anyway, that pretty much has been the video. Let me know which EZA you're looking forward to the most, and let me know how you want these EZA units to be designed. I know in this video, I probably forgot to mention a couple things with some units, so feel free to let me know in the comments how you want some of these units to be designed, and if it does differ from what I said. Me personally, I'm looking forward to these Super Saiyan 4s. Of course, they're just helping so many teams, and I think alongside a lot of the new Super Saiyan 4 units that we're going to be getting, and the LR Super Saiyan 4 Goku that we just got, they're definitely going to be very useful. So anyway, that has been the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.